Bring us your baffling.
Bring us your audacious.
We want your sticky notes, sketchbooks, and scribbles. Let's pin them to the wall, kick them around.
Kick them around, see what happens.
Because we're in the how do I get this startup off the ground business.
The taking your business, global business.
We're in the problem-solving business. 400,000 people.
Ready to help you solve problems while they're still called opportunities.
From figuring it out to getting it done.
We're here to help.
Well, we're getting back after a tough loss. After a couple of wins, we had a tough loss at Ohio in our conference opener against a very good Ohio University team, and so it was just a disappointing loss. We played so hard and played for 4 quarters and couldn't come up with either another field goal or cross that goal line one time. But I was real proud of the way our team played and told our employees, our young men, to keep their head up and keep going. We got a lot of football to be played, and we'll continue to get better and get to the next game. And we've had a good week of practice so far, and now it's time to get ready for Eastern Michigan. And in this conference, again, it's about Frank Solich and I were talking before the game, and I think of myself as being one of the old guys in the staff, but Frank's seniority's me a little bit. But it's just talk about this conference about winning close ball games, and they did, and that's what we've got to continue to work hard and try to win those close ball games, to lose 14-12. But the players responded well, they played well, and now we just got to go out there and turn. It's like the week before we didn't have to kick field goals. Everything we touched went in the end zone. Then this week we couldn't, and give some credit to the defense on the other side, and to our defense against them, as we couldn't get through the red zone. So again, we'll get it strapped back up. This is a very good Eastern Michigan team. I think they're great. I think they're the most improved team in the conference as far as what they're doing now. And they've had a tough schedule like all of us have had in our non-conference schedule. And we'll go up there and try to get this get back on course and get us back on that winning side. Questions?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but last year after you upset Pitt, you guys came out flat the next game?
Against Eastern Michigan.
You came out flat?
Very flat.
Okay. Is there a difference you see in the team this year than last year? Because no one gave you a great chance against Louisiana Lafayette.
Right.
A lot of people viewed that as an upset.
Right.
But you came out last week and you were right there.
Right.
And I, just looking a little bit, I see a difference. Do you see it? And attitude.
I hope I do. I mean, we didn't come out. I mean, if you say you can't say you came out flat this past week, because the defense just played very well. Even offensively, when you take two teams and play so hard together, we came out against a very, very good team, and we scored 4 out of 4 times in the red zone. We just didn't get any touchdowns. I think defensively we're a better football team. Offensively, we're still trying to find out who we are. I think we're definitely a better running team. We didn't have rush for a ton of yardage last week, but we almost doubled their yardage in a game that was a hard-fought two defenses that were bent on stopping the run. But George, it's a good question. I think we have to. We're still. I mean, I wish I could predict the future and say what we are, but I believe this team is played very hard, played very well. It was a game where we played if somebody said, well, and when I'm commenting here, you don't take anything away from Ohio. They won the game. They scored 2 more points than we did. That deserves winning. But we went out there in the second half and tried to take control of the game and win the game, and we did. We just couldn't put it across the goal line enough to get down there and do that. And penalty hurt us one time, especially. We got down to the 5-yard line and saw a penalty which I still cannot find on film anywhere. We cannot find it. Doesn't exist, and I'll go to my deathbed saying it doesn't exist. It never happen. But that being said, I think we're a stronger defense, and I think offensively we're a little different type of offense.
Was that the Bryce Cheat penalty?
No, this was on our offensive line. I thought it was on freshman. It was on our center. It was a holding call on our center. And we've looked and looked and looked, and the guy fell down. He was supposed to block, and he never got his really hands on him. They just called a penalty. So when the guy fell down, it was. But anyway, that being said, you have to overcome that. I'm not going to get another. We didn't lose that game because of that penalty. We blew an opportunity to score in the red zone. Is what we did, and we needed to. You needed to come back and get down there and score in the red zone. But again, we'll find out a little bit this week. I think that this, like I say, every week's going to be a battle. We're going to take them one at a time, but it's going to be. If anybody ever thinks in this conference you really determine anything before November, you're crazy. I don't know that anybody really does in this conference get everything determined until November. But right now, we just need to go out there and improve and get better, improve our red zone offense, continue to play well against a defense. I mean, you look at Eastern Michigan; they scored a ton of points against Wyoming. In the first half, they got 14, I think, early in the first half against LSU. They got ahead 17-0 against Ball State, and it shows you a team that went from the first coach last year to a guy in his second year. They've made some real strides, and so we've got to be ready to go.
Your defense came up very big at the start of the third quarter after Tommy threw the interception.
Right.
They were deep and DeAndre came up with that interception in the end zone. Was that a game changer on the defense side?
I think that the fact that we kicked the field goal, after the first two drives, and again we need to get that taken care of, because again, when you get up 14 points early, it changes the way they have to play football. When you're in a rain game, those are not 14 late points; they're 14 early points. I think by the end of the second quarter, mid-second quarter, we began defensively. They began to take over. We went down and kicked a field goal to make it a one-score game, and I think that's where it did. In the second half, we really talked about not being the first team to make a mistake, and we did. Tommy tried to force one. It was one he didn't have to make. Things were covered. He tried to force one across the middle, across his body. We blinked first. Their guy had a pretty good day, but he blinked second. And so we gave one up and both teams had one turnover, and that was back-to-back right there. And both teams had to play football in the other team's reds. And that was the only time I think they got the ball on our side of the field, and we didn't get the ball at all. And I think we might have got it on the 50 one time. But it was a defensive battle all the way with a lack of turnovers.
One comment, please, on Stein. He came in, he was, 2-5
Right.
before last Saturday. That first one, though, was a tricky one, over 40 yards.
Mm-hmm.
It was still rainy and windy. Did that help his confidence?
I'm sure it did. We talked to him. If you'll think about every kick that he's missed, it's usually been his first one. I said, you got to be ready. First one against Oklahoma, right off the 3 or 4 yard line. First one against Savannah State, kicked low, and it got blocked really from just kicking it low. And then a deeper one I think we had against Louisiana Lafayette. We had one to ice it maybe right before the half, or really to put it in the ice the game a little bit further. So it really challenged him and our punter to get out there and be good from the very beginning, to win the game on the first field goal, not the last. Win it on the first one, and he put himself in a position to do that. I think I was real pleased with that.
What do you know about Darius Jackson, their running back at this point?
I haven't watched enough of their offense quite yet. He's done a great job. I've seen his stats and seen his numbers. They're a better offensive football team. He's outstanding. But like I say, I've watched nothing but defense to this point. Towards the end of the week, I'll watch a little of their offense with Chuck and kind of see what Chuck's thinking. But like I say, because I work on the opposite side of the ball, I've watched defense, and more defense. But I have noticed, because when you watch defense, you notice all of a sudden it's 7-0 or 14-0, or said, okay, what are they doing offensively? And so I want to go in and watch that with Chuck and his staff. But I know their running back has done very well, and their offense is put more points on the board. Know that much.
Do you see a difference in your run defense this year?
Well, it's a strong. It's even stronger. I think the teams that have been able to move the ball, we've got to make sure that we don't give up too much passing early till we settle that down. Because I think when teams try to run early, we can stop that. Seems like to me that at Ohio they hit the little screens to the outside. They got their yardage early by throwing the football, knowing they couldn't run too well. And we've got to make sure that we also we stop the pass well. Now they didn't have a big numbers either side, passing or rushing, but I think Our defense is even stingier. Jamal Marcus missed 2 games, and having him back, he's a factor in the front. And then Rodney Coe had missed a couple, and he's back. Cody Grice was banged up, and he didn't get to play a ton, but linebackers were all healthy. So that's been that's usually the first part of the battle. But I got a feeling against teams that in the future our defense is going to be ready for the pass right off the bat, because that's what Ohio did not. They came out and threw the football and moved the ball down there. Then we got adjusted to what they were going to throw in the football. But we needed to keep them out of the end zone. Like I said, I'd rather see 14 points spread out a little bit than when you get in the rain and the other team's got 14. They're playing very defensively off us. They're not taking bad chances. They're willing to hold on to that 14 as long as they can hold on to it. And so we'll be. But I suspect teams will line up and throw the football. Although Eastern Michigan's a very good running team. They like to run the football, and they're a good running team.
How do you account for the deep? It's one thing I noticed. You're giving up 92 yards rushing per game, which in this day and age is a little bit unheard of.
Right.
What accounts for it? I mean, I talked
Well,
to a couple of your guys. They say communication.
Well, communication and experience. I mean, Cody Grice has been a 4-year starter on the defensive front. Rodney Coe's been a big addition. Alfonso Carrico, this is really his 4th year, and he's playing behind Savon Pittman. Jamel Marcus, Savon Pittman, Jamel was on our team practicing last year. Pittman started. So you got really 2 linebackers out of 3 starters returning, and Darryl Monroe was a 3-year starter at Washington State. You got a veteran group that I think communicate well because they understand football. It's good. It's a good bunch. It's a good bunch. They're talented football players who play very hard. That's the most thing. Whether they communicate well, they better, and they probably do. But I think you can overanalyze that. It's not the X's and O's. It's the Jimmies and Joes, and we've got a little better Jimmies and Joes right now than we've had since we've been here.
And so far this season, last year, the year before, in the run game, you get gashed for 20, 25 yards running once in a while. You haven't seen no one.
You're jinxing me right now, George. I'm telling you. I mean, we've got some very good running teams coming up that are going to challenge us, and I think and we won't have to get too much past Eastern Michigan, but. I mean, you write that, but that's fact. I mean, they have not given them up. Now, I'm just knock on wood, keep it up. If defense will not give up explosive plays, if we as a team do not lose the turnover battle, and we don't give up, we gave up one explosive play. A tight end got open. They rolled left. He set, pretended to hide. He hide. Safety had a second read on him, slid over. 24-yard free explosive play in the passing game. If our defense doesn't give up explosive plays, they're talented enough to make it hard for people to drive down the field. People to drive down the field 10, 12 play drives, and it makes it difficult. In Ohio University, they had like 19 scoring drives. 8 of them were 4 plays or less in the first 4 games before they played us. So they were pretty good at making big plays, and we were able to keep them out of the explosive plays most of the day. But the running game, that's going to be big in the running game as well. Is that right? Yeah. Well, like I said, and again, we're committed to stopping the run. We got to make sure. You look at Pitt. You look at Oklahoma. They had to go to the pass, and they did, and that's what people will do. Ohio University came out thinking they're not going to be able to run. They're going to have to pass the ball, and they picked up 14 points, but we settled down. So I think the defense continue to be good against the run, but the challenging for our defense will be how people start to blend in the pass much earlier.
A couple things. Since you have seen Eastern's defense now, their numbers, especially rushing. Now they have played Army and they played Leonard Fournette last week.
Yeah, I mean you got some, and Wyoming was an entire 21 personnel. That 21 means tight end, fullback, tailback.
Okay.
Wyoming is nothing but a running team, and they were a powerful running. They're not a good record, but they run the football, and that's what they do. Even when they were getting beat, 35-7. Right. I want to say at halftime. But they were going to run the football no matter what. So you played Army, which is a option team, LSU, which just chose to just run up and run it and run it and run it. Their third tailback looked as big and fast as Fournette or whatever his name is, just it wasn't him. So I don't know if you can throw out the stats pretty much against some of the people we've played. Oklahoma's had some pretty good numbers passing-wise against a lot of other people, and Pitt just knocked off Virginia Tech, and they got beat at the very last play of the game, I think, against Iowa. Yeah, and so Right now, like I say, we just got what we got to do is keep, which our kids get your head up. You've lost to some good people. Now let's just get our head up and now we got to start winning. We got to start winning those games now. Those are a good team. Got to start winning them. But right now, keep our head in the game. Eastern Michigan is we need to mix the running with the pass. Last week was I didn't think either team ran the ball exceptional. Like I said, we may have had 88, but nobody had a big play. If one team gets a 40-yard run, all of a sudden your running game becomes much better. Ours would have gotten to 120, 130. But I think neither team gave up the big, long running play as well. And when the weather's bad, all your safeties play tighter. Everybody plays tight football. They play closer, and because they know you're going to run more. They know you don't pass it as well down because the wind was blowing and the rain was raining, and so it was not as bad as Pitt, but it was one where the passing was hit and miss.
Is your run offense where you want it right now? Is it at 160-yard range?
No, it needs to be. Well, no, we are committing to the running game. We're committed to it. Is it where I don't know that where we want to be may take several years to get to where we want to be because of the thing philosophically is where we're wanting to go with it. But no, this season we need to. Last week I'd like to run a little bit better. I'd like to run a little bit better. So, but we've had a couple of 200-yard running games and we've gotten better at it. And so we're committed to it. I think as the weather gets worse, we've already had 3 rain games. One of them it didn't rain, but it was supposed to. So I think with this type of weather, we got to be ready for the wind and the rain and possibly the snow later on. And I think the running game becomes important to us down the road. But we'll see. But it's getting better. It's getting better. There might be a big. Newman Williams missed last week. He's injured. He's out. So whether he's back or not, I don't think we've said he's back or not yet this week. But he's very big in our running game. And we lost him against Savannah State, didn't we? About halfway through Savannah State, and I think we need to get him back in that run because that's it's not just a fullback; it's an H-back that blocks and does some critical things inside.
Having his blocking was impressive.
Yeah, he's really good. He really does a great job. He's when you're 5'11 and a half, 265 pounds, people think you're little. But if you're 6'5", 240, they think you're big. He's 265. He's good. He's big, and he's strong, and he's a good blocker, and will be a better runner and pass catcher.
What's Isaiah Williams' status this week?
We haven't made an announcement yet on Isaiah. I don't think have we. I don't think. So I think it'll be a we'll try to hold off and see where it's going to be until see how he can go.
Day-to-day?
Yeah, day to day. I was thinking of the word I was supposed to. So the official word that we say, college gamesmanship is a little bit more bigger in college than it is in pros, where you have to and I think pros have to make official announcements. In college, there's a little more gamesmanship with injuries in college. Not that it makes a whole lot of difference, but we don't know. I mean, we have some guys that we don't practice at all, and we don't talk to y'all about it. They're just kind of banged up. They're veterans. We might not practice them at all this week, and they'll play all the entire game. We had some last week that played that didn't practice at all, and it is day to day on some of these guys.
When you, I know you study all this stuff when you compile data. When you look at the performance on the red zone, what do you see, or what do you think you can do differently, or just execute?
Execute, because like I say, we couldn't call plays the week before that didn't score.
Right.
3rd and 5th, 13 we score. 3rd and 9 we score. 10-yard line we running play up the middle. We drive 8 people into the goal line and score. This past week we have penalty here. I think we had 2 red zone penalties. I think we had a legal procedure and we had the 15-yarder down to the 5. So when you play a team like Ohio, you can't be in the long yardage situations. But we have to we're working a lot more in the red zone this week. In other words, we're doing almost half our work during the week instead of doing it in the middle of the field. We're doing it in the red zone. You just got to. I don't know, and I analyze this. I overanalyze games that everything seems to work, and the next one the team's a little better and that don't work. But you got to come our way a little bit better in the red zone. We've got to improve that. But it was good last couple of weeks. We've been real good at it. Although I think some of our scores came outside the red zone, against Louisiana Lafayette. But still, it's one of those where you have no idea. Other than they have to give the defense credit why you weren't quite strong enough in the red zone. We'll really look at it.
Coach, a loss is a loss, but at this stage in your career, what keeps you up later at night after a game? Losing by 2 to Ohio or losing in a multi-sport?
Losing by 2 to Ohio is a lot different than losing to Oklahoma. and then and Pitt in the rebound match. I think Ohio was one that you really identify your team with other teams in your division and teams that are successful. I think Ohio, other than Northern Illinois, is the second winningest team in our conference the last 10 years or something. And we've played 2 games. We've lost 23-20, and I'm not going to talk about them anymore. They've done a fine job, and I really enjoy Frank Solich in this conference. But we've lost 23-20 and 14-12, and that keeps me up at night. I'm getting too old. I'm ready to win. I'm ready to get that series turned around. But now we're on to Eastern Michigan, and like I say, you got to start. You start winning. You got to go out there and put up. You put one more point on the board than the other team. I told our coaches and our players before the season, as we change our offense, our goal is to score one more point than the other team. And we'll talk about whether we're good enough at this or good enough at that. But as we develop who we are, who quarterback is, and what we're trying to do, our job is to play great defense, don't turn the ball over, score one more point than the other team. I have absolutely no. It's like it's like watching Baylor play, and I love to watch Baylor play. They average 765 yards a game. They average 600 yards passing. I don't know what it is, or 300. But when the national championship game's played, it'll be 2 teams that play I formation power football. I guarantee it. It'll be 2 teams that play old-fashioned football. So there's this. You get caught up in it, and you decide what you can do. And I think there are. I love it. In fact, I think Baylor would be. They do what they are good at, and what gives them a chance to win. What I'm saying is, you can get lulled to sleep. You know, our first year here, that's where we had gone to Oklahoma State, Baylor, and gotten a lot of that offense, and Dalton Williams was perfect for it, and it really. But as we've developed into this part of the country, I think week in and week out, we just got to continue to go where we're going.
Coach, away from this week, I do want to ask you about the conference. The shocker, and for most of us, was a shocker in Mount Pleasant with Central, and Toledo making the top 25 on the writer's side, and on the cusp and the coach's side. It can't do anything but even be better for this conference.
It doesn't. I mean, you got to remember. I mean, Northern Illinois played in a big for the old Power 5 bowl game. I mean, in the Orange Bowl against Florida State. So we have had teams. This is where we have been. You know, Toledo. I mean, Northern Illinois was hanging around that top 10 there for a while. In my first 2 years here, Toledo's done a fine job in doing the same thing. Toledo's had a lot of. I mean, that's where Nick Saban coached at one time. You know, so these programs have had a lot of. They've had a lot of success, and they've continued to. So the conference is very strong. We know that. And Central Michigan is I want to say they're one of the top winningest programs in the conference as well historically. And their coach goes to a bowl and takes another job. Shows you what kind of. I mean, they've done a decent job over there. The conference is good, and like I said, we're right now we're competitive. We need to get over that. There's another level. We want to be the competitive team that wins. We're not the competitive team that gets pounded. We're the competitive team. We need to be the competitive team that wins, and the kids know that.